Okay, so I want to just talk about breaking down movements, particularly for the hands. And this applies to the Tai Chi for Health warm-ups, Tai Chi for Health set and such for beginners and even for intermediate advanced students. Um, uh, for instance, we do a symmetrical movement, right? Coming up, coming in. Right? The first warm-up from Tai Chi for Health Institute warm-up. Easy to move two hands at once. Right? It's symmetrical. Each hand can mirror each other. You will see people, of course, right, where one hand might be lagging or for whatever reason. Okay? So that's pretty straightforward. But when we get into the movements that cause more whole brain thinking, one up, one down, left and right, left, right hemisphere, doing maybe opposite symmetrical mirror image, but they're still opposites. You really have to split, right? It's not easy to just apply the exact same movement to two sides of your body. So the second movement, right? The second movement where you're turning, one hand is rotating with you, the neck is turning, you're looking, and the other hand is falling and coming back and turning the other way. So this is a nice warm-up drill to address this, and the movement is really broken down already. You just take away the movement of the head and you take away some of this. In other words, when I'm rotating this way, I'm making sure that my palm is rotating, so my palm is always facing the side, right? So it's swiveling, and then it comes back to center. Actually, I like to do it height of heart. Yeah? Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, getting the movements a little bit mixed up. When I do the Qigong as a heart Qigong. When I come here, the fingertips are about my eye height. Right? I want to be able to look right over the fingertips far away, staring at the horizon. So I'm going to come here. Okay? As I come back, the hand starts to fall. And as I turn, the hand still has to fall. So you have to look at the movement without the turning first, right? Address the issue that you're trying to correct or you're trying to develop. So one hand is rotating this way. Yeah, and really that's all it does, right? It's the body that turns. So while this hand is rotating, this hand is rotating down from here. Looks simple enough. What are we trying to do? We're trying to have both hands moving together. In other words, my top palm is turning. I don't want my bottom hand to stop in one place. And that's what you'll see is a lot of people will stop one hand. So you have to correct and train each hand, palm, body part to do what you want. So you have to break down the movement. So I'm not going to add the turn. I'm just saying, okay, can I make both move at the same time? If you're the instructor watching and you see this turning and this stops and this locks, right? That's your cue to say, hey, relax the shoulder, keep that hand moving. And remember in Tai Chi for Health Institute, no touch. So you can guide them, right? Show them with yours. You could stand right in front of them so they have to mirror. And if you have to have them just watch one hand, right? So as your hand's dropping, if their hand stops, just stop and say, hey, look at my hand, keep up with my hand, keep moving my hand, right? Maybe take away the upper hand, just focus that, then put it back together. It follows the theory of the three-step progressive method, right? Take one step, break it down, then add a little bit more, then add a little bit more, right? Demo, show me, right? Demo, show me, do it together, do it by yourself, right? And keep going back and forth with that kind of theory. Okay, so what you tend to see is as people are turning, right, this hand will lock right here. You're still turning and it'll lock here. This hand also, when you talk about it, I can only give guide, but the falling hand should feel like it's constantly falling as I'm turning. Right? always moving. Right? If I'm going, I want to feel like it's doing this. Even if it looks like it's stopped, inside I want to feel that it's still falling. So break down the movement and do it slowly so students can work on their timing of the movement, right? And become aware of what each hand is doing. The mind has to switch back and forth. Right? So what happens is the mind gets locked only on the upper hand. Okay, why? Because that's the hand you're looking at. That's E training. So when we do wave hands like clouds, we say, look at the palm, look at the fingertips. Why? We're using our eyes to train our mind to bring the chi, our focus, to that point. Eventually, you can do it with your eyes closed. Okay? But what we're really trying to do is think about it with the mind so the chi will travel there. So look at the fingertips. If you're doing this for martial arts, of course, you kind of look at your fingertips, you got to look above, right? But it's the learning stage. If you skip that stage, then you're always kind of fumbling with it. So do that, then wean off your fingertips, look straight, and then do it with your eyes closed, and then just stare. So because we're staring at this hand, right? You might be staring at this hand 100%. You totally forget this hand, so you think it's moving, but you're not thinking about this hand. So you have to break down the movement. Okay? Right. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, and then eventually put everything together, of course. And then what you can do is, well, let's look at the next one, wave hands like clouds, Wan Sao. So in Sun style, right, we have the seated wrist and it's here. So my recommendation is do it gently, where the wrist can flex more the Yang style. Okay? And what I try to teach my students is, it's a lot about the chi. So when you're pumping, when the hand is dropping, you're pumping the chi here into the earth chi will rise. So it's a hydraulic system. So if you had a tube, like a water tube, and each hand was on both sides, if you pump this down, right, this hand will go up. If you pump this down, this hand will go up. It's the chi traveling. The more you relax, the more you feel it. Just the intent to listen to it. Right? Or you can draw like a piston that will create a vacuum, a suction, and this hand will just drop. Okay? So that's another exercise that can help to develop that skill, but you have to bring attention to it. So when I was teaching it, I'm just talking about that feeling of chi, that displacement of energy, right? Shifting and drawing, standing, and then shifting, and then stepping, and then shifting, doing it piece by piece, right? So I would say, take a wide stance, and as you pump the chi down, right, getting in place, it's going to shift you over, and you pump the chi down, and just listen to that, like that hydraulic system, right, of creating pressure. This hand is totally relaxing. This is yang or yang. Right? Then pumping, sinking, let this hand go, let it rise by itself. Okay? And then eventually start turning the waist, learn how to turn the waist. Right? So two hands moving together simultaneously, eventually adding the turn of the waist to create the circular movements, but the hand is just moving up and down. Okay? And then switching and say, okay, pull, like pulling a piston, and let the other hand fall. Okay? And eventually you'll feel that. Okay? And then learning to turn, and then maybe stepping and drawing, and you can see the English starting to come out, releasing, and still just doing it in place. And drawing attention to listen to both hands. So if the object is to get both hands moving, right, working together, you have to draw the student's attention to that, okay? And then eventually walking. Okay? So it doesn't look like wave hands like clouds yet, okay? But it will. Okay? Because this is the same movement, from the shoulders to the elbows. The only difference is in the forearm, in the typical Yang style, or the Yang style I learned, we create this frame here, and the hands down. Okay? has application reasons for doing that. So you can do it however it's comfortable for you. Okay, so if I'm just pumping, listening, shifting, not starting from here but ending with here, or transitioning through here, and then eventually adding the walk, whether it's right or left. And can you feel both hands moving together? And pump. Maybe draw. And you can alternate, right? This can be pulling up and then pumping down. So you can see how it causes chi to flow in the body. Okay. And as you get comfortable with it, then you'll just kind of naturally switch to whatever your intent, whatever your preference is to do it. Wrist is relaxed, so you don't need that discipline. You're just looking for that feeling. And then if you're doing yang style, you can start to come up. Both hands have intent. You have to lightly stretch both fingers tips so you can feel both hands. Be aware so one doesn't get stuck. There. And then you can put it back into whatever form you're doing. So if it's the Tai Chi for health, arthritis for fall prevention, and we're doing the Sun Lutang form, right, with the seated wrist. Right? You want that nice stretch and open. You want to feel that stretch on the forearm coming back through the triple burner channel. You want to feel that from here, from the ring finger. You want to feel that stretch from the pericardium channel. You're holding that nice ball in the middle, that heart, the sun, right? And it's from here. So still the same, right? Both hands moving together continuously. The hands are just moving up and down, but they're making circles. Circles come from moving the waist. Trying to make sure that both hands are moving up and down and they're not getting stuck. So in other words, the hands really are just doing this. When you make circles, it's the waist that's turning. Okay? So we can make circles like this without turning the waist, of course, but learn to turn the waist, eventually turn the waist. So we can make circles this way, we can make circles this way. You put a rest so your hand is on the tabletop. You could put a round platter. If you have a large round serving dish, touch the rim with your palm. Let everything circle. Make circles, make circles, make circles. Learn how to make nice circles. Okay? Together, independently, both ways, okay? Until you start cutting both ways. Okay? They can face each other holding the ball and cut that way. Right? Can be together and here. Okay? Now, I feel like I'm turning, but I'm not making big turns. So in the beginning, make large turns. Do it slowly. That's it. Okay. The other one is brush knee. I think brush knee lends itself really naturally to it. Right? Coming out, one hand falling, while the other hand is dropping and turning, and then changing position the whole time. And this hand just tends to kind of fall into place. And there's variations how you can do it. So we're not going to talk about that. That's not what this is about. Palm down here. There's some general rules, of course, but right? Brushing knee, both hands moving at the same time. So I love this drill in the chair or standing. Right? You can go one way. You can just go in place. Just go in place, just walking in place, sitting, turning, and so on. But just do it with the hands, right? If the focus in the breakdown is to get both hands to work, it's a wonderful drill, but you have to bring their attention to what you're doing with the hands, that you want both hands. If the focus is, we're going to practice moving both hands at the same time, right? Not one stops, keeps going, not one faster or slower than the other, that kind of thing. So if I'm coming from push hands, right? Bringing that awareness, and then moving to, in the sunset, repulse the monkey. Right? Both hands continuously moving, turning from the waist. Right? And you have to help the student. Right? If you're an instructor, because the student gets locked up, the beginner gets locked up into one hand. But just doing a simple drill like this, just like the first drill, right, the warm-ups, it's just a simple drill to practice moving two hands at the same time. In coordination, they're symmetrical but opposite. And you could just practice one hand, just practice one side. Just getting you or your students to move both hands at once. These are all whole brain kind of movements. Right? Left and right, up and down, left-right hemisphere working at the same time. Right? Symmetrical but not symmetrical. Right? Opposite but symmetrical. That's the riddle. Right? And once they get the hand, then you can add things like, oh, don't forget, lift the sternum, shift the weight, turn some more, folding, unfolding. Maybe for the students who get it faster, you can really encourage them to turn and listen to those circles and spirals in there. Yeah? So the lesson really is break down the movement, forget all the other stuff. Right? If it's a leg form, a stepping, you're just trying to fix width. Right? Forget the other stuff. Look at what you're trying to correct. Right? Just practice that. If you need tools like tape on the ground, a spot on the wall, just isolate out that movement and then slowly put everything back together. And then once you put everything back together in the beginning, everybody's going to forget the beginning, what you just did. So you stop, right? Review it, and then decide. And sometimes just run through the whole set, don't worry about it. Right? If the student practices, if you practice, you're going to get it. If you don't practice, then you're constantly going to be reminding them the same thing over and over and over again. No matter how many videos, no matter how many lessons, it's going to be the same thing. And you have to decide whether you're going to accept that or not accept that. Okay? So these kind of classes, I accept it. Why? Because it's a health class. They're doing something that's making them healthier. Okay? For the students that want more, I show them, I try to put things out there for them, show them corrections. If they get it, great. If they don't get it, they're still getting healthier. Right? They're still improving. Right? They're getting something out of it. So there's a lesson for us as instructors and as teachers. Right? It's a lesson of patience, and it's a lesson of learning how to listen, not just to our own movements, but our students are our movements too. They are an extension of us. So when we say listen to ourselves, we have to listen to the students, and we have to troubleshoot why they can't get it and accept that. And then we have to look for that in ourselves. We have to try some things, and if it works, great. If it doesn't work, don't get frustrated. Just look for something else. In that whole process, you are improving yourself. You're getting better. Okay? All right, I hope that helps.